The boys, we're going to get some lunch. Alan?
Yes?
I said we're going to get some lunch. Alan?
Yes?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I said we're off to get some lunch. This is starting to get a little bit repetitive.
What is?
I had asked if you wanted to come to lunch with us.
No, you didn't. You said you were going to get some lunch.
Have I offended you in some way?
Why would you think that?
Would you like to come to lunch with us?
What time's lunchtime?
Christ, Alan, it's a bleeding sandwich.
What is?
Lunch.
Oh, I don't like sandwiches.
Hey folks, it's the Blind Guy here coming back at you with another Should You Watch review. And on this episode, we are looking at the 2014 film The Imitation Game, starring Benedict Cumberbatch and Keira Knightley, and directed by Morten Tyrli, I think is his name. I think he's actually Finnish, if I believe correctly. And so this movie, I've seen it twice now. And I wanted to give it a second watch because it jumps back and forth in time quite a bit. And I felt like I missed a few things the first time through, and I did. And so it was better the second time through. So keep that in mind if you do check it out. It centers around the life of Alan Turing, who was a mathematician from Cambridge, who was brought in to the British military during World War II in order to crack the code used by the Enigma machines that the Germans used, which was essentially a fancy Little Orphan Annie decoder pen from A Christmas Story.
Aha, B. I went to the next. E. The first word is B. S. It was coming easier now.
It had a code that you got every day, and that gave the Germans the information for setting the machine, and then they would use it that day to decode messages that they received from each other. And then the next day they'd switch it. So that gave the Allies only 18 hours to try to figure out how to crack the code every day. And Alan Turing actually created a machine that could crack it. The movie is fairly well done. I believe one of my only gripes with this movie is that I think it's shot on digital. So it doesn't have the nice warm look that film does. You guys know I'm a bit of a stickler for that. But other than that, and it's got some CGI in it that's a little questionable. Felt like they cut a few corners on that. But other than that, I do really like this movie. It centers around some controversial topics. How homosexuals are treated in England and things like that, and why he never received his due credit for what he did, and just how influential and how much credit he actually does deserve for the Allies winning World War II. I do like the fact that he is shown as not a particularly sympathetic character at times. They do show his shortcomings and his weaknesses. I think that's important and something that is missing in a lot of movies today. If they are focusing on quote-unquote marginalized groups, they definitely don't ever show anyone's weaknesses or shortcomings within that group. And they did not do that with this movie. They do show Alan Turing's problems as a human being and his downfall as a human being and those types of ideas, which I think adds to the depth of the character and the believability of the story being told. It is based on a true story, but sometimes things can be conveniently left out on true stories, and they did not seem to do that with this one. I did do some research into the movie. It seems to be pretty accurate. They did leave out another machine called Toonie that was really important, that was cracked also. And then a couple other mathematicians were left out who were also very influential. But I think that's done more for time and coherency more than trying to slight anybody or not give them their due. And so the acting's extremely good in this movie. Keira Knightley does a good job. She's been good in the last two I've seen her in. Atonement in this movie. And then Benedict Cumberbatch, who I'm not always a big fan of just because of the way he talks. Sometimes annoys me, but in this movie he does a good job. The dialogue can be pretty funny at times without seeming to be forced or unbelievable. And so I really appreciate that. It's witty, it's quick, but it seems natural. It seems like dialogue people would actually use. So I enjoyed this movie. I watched it the second time with my parents. They enjoyed it. I think you guys should check it out if you have not already seen it. If you have seen it, leave a message in the comments below about what you thought of it. And if you had any critiques of the movie, like I said, my only ones really were kind of the look of the movie, and then some of the CGI was a little questionable. But other than that, it's a good movie. I would probably give it about a 7.2, which means I might not own it, but it's something that I would watch if you wanted to sit down and watch with me. I'd definitely watch it. So that is 2014's The Imitation Game. Give it a check. Give it a look. Check it out if you want. Right now it is streaming for free on Amazon Prime. So check it out if you have that. And I will see you guys on the next episode. Thank you for joining me, and laters on the Menjay.
Latest on the Menjay.